You don't go broke overnight, you go broke quietly, one small decision at a time. Not because you're lazy, but because you were trained wrong. The real thief of wealth isn't the taxman, inflation, or the economy. It's habits. Habits that look harmless, but eat your freedom day by day. Most people are not broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because they've built a beautiful cage filled with bills, debt, and distractions, and then called it a lifestyle. The rich live in freedom, the poor live in obligation. The difference? Awareness. Today I want to show you the invisible traps that keep good people poor. You know, one of the greatest traps that keeps people broke is this obsession with appearances. It's everywhere you look. People trying to look rich instead of becoming rich. They buy cars they can't afford, clothes that don't fit their future, and dinners that last one night but cost a week's wages. They do it all for one reason: to impress people who are usually too busy trying to impress somebody else. That's the cycle. And it's a vicious one. Because the more you chase appearance, the further you drift from substance. The rich don't need to announce they're rich. They let their results speak quietly, while the rest of the world shouts loudly with borrowed money. I remember when I was younger, I used to look at wealthy people and wonder why they didn't live bigger, why they weren't flashing their success for everyone to see. I later realized it wasn't humility, it was intelligence. They understood something that took me years to learn. Money is a tool, not a trophy. When you spend to look rich, you sacrifice the very seed that could make you rich. You eat the harvest before it's grown. The poor use money for show. The wealthy use it for growth. And the difference between those two mindsets determines whether your future expands or collapses. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy your life. I'm saying you should enjoy it wisely. Buy what adds value, not what steals it. When you track your expenses, look at every dollar and ask, did this make me better, or did it just make me look better? You'll be surprised at how much money is hiding in appearances, subscriptions you don't need, luxuries that don't last, purchases that bring a moment of validation but a month of regret. The moment you start labeling your expenses as either appearance or advancement, you take control of your direction. The key is to redirect, not restrict. Cut 20% of what feeds your ego and replant it into what feeds your freedom. That 20% might not feel like much today, but compounded over years, it becomes opportunity, security, and wealth. The same money that buys one night of pleasure could buy a lifetime of peace if used differently. Imagine putting every wasted dollar to work, investing in a growth fund, building a business, learning a skill. Every purchase should pass one test. Does it move you closer to independence or deeper into illusion? You see, the goal is not to impress, it's to progress. The people you're trying to impress aren't paying your bills, and they won't rescue you when the show ends. So live quietly, invest deeply. Let your wealth be seen in your discipline, not your display. Because when you master the art of living below your means, you rise above average, and that's when the real success begins. One of the greatest traps that keeps people broke isn't lack of income, it's lack of control. Most people don't have a money problem, they have a decision problem. They spend emotionally, reactively, impulsively. They let the mood of the moment dictate the movement of their money. And here's the truth: emotions spend faster than logic saves. I've seen people work hard for weeks, sometimes months, only to destroy their progress with one night of impulse. One click, one swipe, one "I deserve this," and there goes the seed that could have changed their future. You see, money has only two destinations. It either becomes a seed or a leak. A seed multiplies, a leak disappears. The poor keep pouring their money into leaks, instant gratification, temporary pleasure, emotional relief, while the wealthy plant their money into seeds that grow long after the feeling fades. The problem is not that people don't know how to save, it's that they don't know how to pause. That pause between desire and decision is where wealth is born. I remember a man once told me, "Every time I feel the urge to spend, I wait 2 days. If I still want it, I buy it." I thought it was simple advice, almost too simple. But that principle alone made him a millionaire. Because wealth doesn't require genius. It requires discipline. You don't need to make perfect choices. You just need to delay foolish ones. That's why I call it the 48-hour rule. You give your emotions 2 days to cool down before they drain your future. And you'd be amazed how many must-haves vanish when the emotion fades. The wealthy build systems to protect themselves from their own impulses. They track their triggers. They study their patterns. If they notice that stress makes them spend, they find healthier ways to release it: exercise, journaling, reflection. Because here's the truth. Emotional spending is rarely about the purchase. It's about comfort, escape, or identity. You can't fix that with another item. You fix it by addressing the cause. So instead of spending to feel good, they invest to feel proud. Start keeping a spending journal. Every time you buy something you don't need, ask yourself, what was I feeling? Boredom? Stress? Envy? You'll start to see the emotional fingerprints behind every bad decision. Once you identify those triggers, you can reprogram them, replace impulse with intention. When you feel the urge to spend, redirect that energy into learning, saving, or investing. Take the same excitement that used to lead you to the checkout counter and use it to buy your freedom instead. Every dollar you keep intentionally becomes a soldier working for you. Every dollar you spend impulsively becomes a deserter working against you. The difference between the broke and the wealthy is not income, it's awareness. The wealthy master the pause. They let logic outrun emotion. Because when your emotions no longer control your money finally starts to control your future. One of the most subtle and dangerous traps that keeps people broke is what I call lifestyle inflation. It's the silent thief of wealth. You work hard, you get that raise, maybe your business finally starts bringing in more, and what happens? The car gets a little newer, the house a little bigger, the vacations a little longer, and the restaurant tabs a little higher. You're making more money, but somehow the bank account still feels the same. And that's because most people don't increase their wealth, they just upgrade their lifestyle. They don't change their habits, they just change the price tags on them. I've met people making 10 times more than they did 5 years ago, but they're still stressed, still in debt, still living paycheck to paycheck, just in a fancier neighborhood. You see, when your income rises, your discipline must rise faster. If it doesn't, you'll simply upgrade your problems. More income without more wisdom only makes you broke on a higher level. The rich understand this truth deeply. It's not how much you make that matters, it's how much you keep and how much that money grows once you keep it. When your income increases, don't rush to celebrate. Pause to strategize. What most people do is expand comfort before expanding capital. They reward themselves before reinforcing their foundation. But the wealthy do the opposite. They freeze their lifestyle every time income rises. That's right. No upgrades, no splurges, no celebrations, at least not yet. They let their investments catch up before their luxuries do. Because wealth is not built by indulging what you've earned. It's built by reinvesting it. Let me give you a simple rule that changed my financial life. Every time you earn more, cap lifestyle upgrades at 25%. That means if you make an extra $1,000 a month, only allow yourself to enjoy $250 of it The other $750 goes straight to investments, savings, or debt reduction. That ratio keeps growth ahead of gratification. It's not about deprivation, it's about direction. Because if you don't tell your money where to go, your emotions will decide for you, and emotions are terrible money managers. I remember one year when my income jumped significantly. The temptation was there: new car, new house, a few luxuries I'd been eyeing for years. But instead, I froze my lifestyle for 12 months. I let that extra income build my investment portfolio instead of my wardrobe. By the end of that year, the returns from those investments started earning more than I could have ever saved by tightening my belt. That was the turning point, the moment I realized that delayed gratification isn't denial, it's strategy. So here's the challenge. The next time your income increases, don't celebrate with a purchase, celebrate with a plan. Let your investments rise before your indulgences. Review your net worth quarterly, not just your paycheck. Because true wealth is not measured by how high your income climbs, but by how steadily your assets grow. Remember, you can't spend your way into freedom. You have to invest your way there. Debt is one of those traps that looks like opportunity on the outside, but feels like captivity on the inside. It's easy to enter and hard to escape. And the most dangerous part? Society teaches you that it's normal. Everyone has debt, they say. It's just how life works. But the truth is, debt can either be your greatest servant or your most relentless master, and most people choose the wrong role without realizing it. The poor use debt for pleasure, the rich use it for production. That's the dividing line. When you use debt to consume, you're trading your future freedom for present comfort. You're pulling tomorrow's energy into today's entertainment and then paying interest on the regret. I remember when I was younger, I watched friends buy things they couldn't afford just to feel successful. The car was shiny, the furniture new, the credit cards maxed out. A few months later, they weren't celebrating, they were suffocating. Their paychecks didn't feel like progress anymore, they felt like payments to the past. Debt does that. It handcuffs your future while convincing you you're free. The wealthy think about debt differently. They treat it as leverage, not lifestyle. If they borrow, it's because the money is going to work harder than they do. They use debt to buy assets that appreciate, not items that depreciate. They borrow to build a business, to buy property, or to invest in something that generates cash flow. Because productive debt pays for itself and often multiplies. Destructive debt, on the other hand, pays for vanity and subtracts quietly for years. If you want to build real wealth, the first step is to separate the two. List every debt you owe and label it as productive or destructive. Be honest with yourself. That new phone on installment? Destructive. The credit card for eating out? Destructive. A small business loan that produces income? Productive, if managed wisely. Then make a plan to eliminate every piece of destructive debt as fast as possible, starting with the highest interest rates. That's your freedom project. Every payment you make isn't just reducing a balance, it's reclaiming a piece of your life. Once you've cleared the destructive debts, build a rule that protects you from ever falling back into the trap. No credit for consumption. If it doesn't make you money or grow in value, you pay cash or you wait. Because waiting builds discipline, and discipline builds wealth. The poor borrow to look rich, and the rich wait to become free. I learned this the hard way. Early in my career, I financed a lifestyle I couldn't sustain. It looked impressive, but it felt like slavery. The moment I cut the debt, my mind cleared, my creativity returned, and my income grew faster than ever before. That's the paradox. The less you owe, the more you own of your time, your energy, and your destiny. So remember, debt can be a tool or a trap. Use it to build your future, not to borrow your present. One of the most dangerous traps that keeps people broke isn't greed or laziness. It's ignorance. You can't master what you don't understand. And yet, most people spend their entire lives working for money they've never learned to control. They know how to earn it, how to spend it, even how to borrow it, but not how to grow it. The rich read financial reports, the poor read price tags. The difference isn't access, it's awareness. Now, don't get me wrong, ignorance isn't stupidity, it's neglect. It's the result of leaving your financial education in someone else's hands, your boss, your bank, your government. But if you depend on others to think about your money, don't be surprised when they think about themselves first. You have to take ownership of your own financial education. Because wealth isn't just earned with effort, it's sustained with understanding. When I was young and broke, I remember hearing a simple truth that changed everything. Formal education can make you a living. Self-education can make you a fortune. Not novels or entertainment, but books about money, value, markets, and mindset. I didn't understand everything at first, but over time, the pieces began to connect. I learned how money flows, how it multiplies, how it hides in habits, and how it grows in silence. The more I learned, the more opportunities I began to see that others were blind to. You see, ignorance makes you dependent. Education makes you powerful. The wealthy make it a habit to study their finances. They don't leave it to chance or emotion. They read financial statements like road maps. They know where every dollar goes, and they track its journey. They study markets, not headlines. They analyze trends, not rumors. They follow principles, not influencers. Because they understand that you don't get wealthy by following noise, you get wealthy by following knowledge. So here's where you start. Commit to reading one financial or business book every month. It doesn't have to be complex, just consistent. Learn about budgeting, investing, real estate, or entrepreneurship. These books are not entertainment, they are blueprints. Then, take it one step further. Find credible financial educators to follow. Not the ones showing luxury cars online, but the ones teaching principles of compounding, risk management, and long-term growth. Next, measure your progress with real numbers. Start tracking at least one financial metric every week. It could be your savings rate, your debt-to-income ratio, or your return on investment. What gets measured gets improved. That simple habit of watching your money is the same discipline that builds wealth, because the moment you start paying attention, your habits start changing. I remember when I began tracking my net worth monthly. At first, it was uncomfortable, small numbers, big debts. But over time, those numbers became my scoreboard. Each increase, no matter how small, fueled my motivation. Knowledge made me accountable. Ignorance had once made me reckless. So, if you truly want to escape financial struggle, don't just work harder, learn smarter, read, study, ask questions, and track results. Money doesn't respond to emotion, it responds to education. The moment you decide to understand your money is the moment it starts working for you, not against you. One of the most overlooked traps that keeps people broke is the habit of ignoring cash flow. Most people are so busy chasing income that they never stop to measure what actually matters. What's left after the bills, the taxes, and the lifestyle take their cut. They brag about what they make, but stay silent about what they keep. But income is vanity. Cash flow is sanity. A high income looks impressive. A healthy cash flow feels free. You see, there's a big difference between earning a lot and owning your time. I've known people who make 6 figures a year but can't take a week off without everything falling apart. Then I've met people earning far less, yet their money works while they rest. The difference isn't intelligence, it's awareness. The rich think in terms of flow, not figures. They focus on how many streams feed their life. not how loud the waterfall sounds in one season, because consistent inflow, not temporary peaks, is what builds wealth that lasts. When I first learned this lesson, I was chasing sales numbers. I thought the goal was to make more, but each time I earned more, the expenses rose to match it. It wasn't until I sat down and tracked every inflow and outflow that I realized I was running in circles. I wasn't building a foundation, I was feeding a machine that always demanded more fuel. That day, I made a decision to stop chasing numbers and start managing flow. To measure success by what stayed, not just what came, and that one shift changed everything. Here's the truth. Wealth is not built on effort alone, it's built on structure. Start by listing every recurring source of income, your salary, business revenue, side hustles, dividends, rent, anything that puts money in your account regularly. Then list every recurring expense, bills, subscriptions, debts, lifestyle costs. When you put them side by side, you'll see the story your money's been telling behind your back. If your outflow matches or exceeds your inflow, that's a warning sign, not of failure, but of opportunity. It means you have power waiting to be reclaimed. The key is to make savings and investing automatic. Every time money comes in, don't wait for discipline, build a system. Automate your savings so the first portion leaves before you even see it. Pay yourself first, always. Let your cash flow serve your freedom, not your impulses. That simple automation will do more for your future than any amount of motivation ever will. And once your flow stabilizes, expand it. Each year, add one new income-generating asset. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's a small stock portfolio, a digital product, or a piece of rental property. The point is to keep building streams until your money no longer depends on your time. That's how financial peace is created, not by earning endlessly, but by flowing wisely. Remember, the goal is not just to make a living, it's to create a life where the money never stops working even when you do. Once you learn to conduct it, wealth becomes a song that never ends. Following the crowd is one of the most subtle yet destructive traps that keeps people broke. I've seen it time and again, people chasing the same stocks, buying the same trendy gadgets, or entering the same hot business without ever asking why. Herd thinking creates excitement, but it rarely creates wealth. When everyone is running in the same direction, the rich pause, observe, and consider. They know that wealth is not found in popularity, but in prudence. The poor act on impulse. The wise act on insight. I remember early in my career, when everyone around me was convinced that a particular investment was a guaranteed success. People were shouting about instant returns, and fear of missing out gripped the room. I wanted to jump in too, but something inside told me to pause and study. I spent the week researching the fundamentals, reading past market cycles, and speaking to people who had experienced similar trends. By the time I decided, the frenzy had settled, the hype had faded, and I invested with clarity instead of panic. That decision protected my money and positioned me for growth. The wealthy understand that independent thought is a form of discipline. They question before they follow. They verify before they commit. Herd thinking can create temporary excitement, but it rarely builds sustainable wealth. Before following advice, study it carefully, look at the facts, consider the history. Don't act because everyone else is acting. Wealth grows quietly in the decisions made by those willing to think for themselves. Practical steps are simple, yet profound. First, verify every piece of financial advice against reality, not rumor. Ask, does this make sense logically? Will it create lasting value? Second, Study market history before reacting to hype. Patterns often repeat, and knowledge protects you from impulsive mistakes. Third, make every investment decision twice, once using logic and once using patience. Allow the decision to marinate, to be tested by reason rather than emotion. Herd behavior is comfortable, but comfort is expensive. The rich embrace discomfort, they ask questions, gather knowledge, and move deliberately. By pausing when others rush, by thinking independently when others follow, you protect your capital and create the space for true wealth to grow. Remember, wealth is built on observation, patience, and independent thought, not noise, trend, or applause. The crowd may run, but those who watch, think, and act wisely stay rich. One of the most common traps that keeps people from building lasting wealth is forgetting to reinvest. You see, income and profits are only the beginning. They're the seeds. The poor spend their earnings as soon as they receive them, chasing satisfaction or status, and wonder why their wealth never grows. The rich, on the other hand, understand that money is like a tree. If you eat every fruit, the tree dies. If you plant the seeds, the tree grows stronger each year. Reinvestment is the act of planting seeds from the fruits of your labor, and it compounds quietly, relentlessly, and invisibly over time. I've seen this countless times in my own life. Early on, I worked hard, earned commissions, and then spent them immediately, dinners, gifts, gadgets, thinking I was successful. It felt good in the moment, but my net worth remained stagnant. The turning point came when I decided to reinvest the first portion of every commission into education, stocks, and small business ventures. At first, it was uncomfortable. I was missing out on instant gratification, but slowly, those reinvestments began to work for me. Each return generated more returns. Each gain seeded another opportunity. The power of compounding started to reveal itself, and my money began to grow without me having to trade more hours for it. The strategy is simple but requires discipline. Every profit, dividend, or return should be automatically reinvested. Don't wait to feel ready or try to time the market. Consistent reinvestment beats sporadic action. Review your portfolio twice a year, not daily, to rebalance and ensure that your money is working in the most effective places. When you do take profits, use them exclusively to fund new assets, rather than indulging in consumption. Wealth is multiplied by action, not by accumulation alone. Reinvestment teaches patience, restraint, and vision. It trains your mind to see beyond today's desires and toward tomorrow's freedom. By consistently reinvesting, you are building a machine that earns while you sleep, that grows quietly while others chase momentary excitement, and that turns modest gains into extraordinary wealth over time. Remember, the rich don't spend every gain. They plant it, nurture it, and let it grow. True wealth comes not from what you earn, but from what you wisely multiply. One of the most silent but deadly traps that keeps people broke is passive living. Many drift through life, assuming that simply working hard or showing up will eventually lead to wealth. They wait for luck, for opportunity, for inspiration, or for someone else to hand them a break. The truth is, wealth never comes to the passive, it comes to the intentional. Financial freedom isn't a matter of speed, it's a matter of direction. If you don't decide where you're going, any path will seem right, and you'll end up somewhere you never intended. I've witnessed this in my own journey. Early in my career, I worked tirelessly, chasing commissions and small successes, but I had no map. I thought that effort alone would carry me, but month after month, my financial life felt like a boat adrift at sea. Then I realized that the wealthy don't drift, they navigate. They design a course and follow it consistently. That moment of realization changed everything. I sat down and created a one-year plan, followed by a 5-year vision specifying exactly how much I wanted to earn, save, and invest, and by when. Suddenly, my daily actions had meaning. Every task, every meeting, every decision became part of a larger story I was intentionally writing. The strategy is simple. Write down your financial goals with specific numbers and dates. Don't leave them vague or floating in a someday category. Break them into actionable steps and review progress monthly. This creates accountability, clarity, and momentum. Replace indecision with action. The gap between where you are and where you want to be can be crossed, one disciplined step at a time, but only if you have a plan to follow. Passive living guarantees stagnation. Intentional living guarantees growth. Financial freedom is built by those who act, not those who wait. Drift no longer. Decide today where you want to be. Map the steps to get there, and take control of your financial destiny. Wealth favors those who plan. Overestimating income and underestimating expenses is one of the quietest traps that can drain your financial life. Many people walk around with big dreams, imagining a future of abundance, yet they ignore the daily leaks that silently erode their wealth. It's rarely one massive expense that sinks a person. It's the accumulation of small, unnoticed outflows. The subscription here, the impulse buy there. The coffee and lunch every day adding up month after month. Dreams alone cannot create wealth. Careful stewardship of resources does. I remember when I first started working, I thought earning more meant being rich. I was making slightly better than average money. But month after month, my account never reflected that. I realized I had been overestimating my income and underestimating my spending. I was living in a fantasy of abundance, while reality was quietly leaking away my potential. That lesson taught me that to grow financially, I needed to track every dollar, every expense, and every inflow the way a successful business tracks profit and loss. The strategy is straightforward. Treat your personal finances as a business. Start with a simple budget, list all sources of income, every fixed and variable expense, and calculate your profit at the end of each month. Audit these numbers weekly to catch leaks early. Identify what's essential, what's optional, and what is purely wasteful. The discipline of reviewing and adjusting ensures that small leaks do not become large financial disasters. It's easy to assume that tomorrow's income will cover today's mistakes, but wealth doesn't compound on assumptions, it compounds on accuracy, discipline, and attention. By monitoring your financial statements closely, you gain clarity and control. You see exactly where your money goes and can direct it toward growth rather than waste. The rich avoid this trap because they understand that consistent oversight of small details leads to long-term security. They don't let fantasy inflate their confidence or erode their resources. If you want to stay rich, start treating your finances as a business today. Track every number, catch leaks before they multiply, and direct your money with purpose. Financial mastery is in the details, and attention to them ensures your wealth endures. Chasing easy money is one of the oldest traps in the book, and yet so many fall into it because it appeals to our desire for instant gratification. We live in a world that glorifies speed, the quick flip, the viral stock, the overnight entrepreneur. But let me tell you, the promise of rapid riches has destroyed more fortunes than failure ever could. It's seductive, intoxicating, and dangerous. The rich understand that wealth is not built on sensation, it is built on wisdom, patience, and disciplined action. I recall early in my career, I was tempted by a friend's sure thing investment. The excitement was palpable. Everyone around me was buzzing about the opportunity. For a moment, I felt that tingle of easy success, that seductive pull to act quickly. But then I paused and asked myself, is this real, sustainable, or is it just a spectacle designed to get people to act emotionally? That pause saved me. The money I might have thrown into a risky, flashy scheme instead went into a slow-growing asset, a stock and education plan that multiplied steadily over years. That's how the rich operate. They look for wisdom and sustainable growth rather than shortcuts and hype. The strategy is simple but not easy. Before you invest a single dollar, commit to a minimum of 30 days of research. Learn the market, the business, and the people behind the opportunity. Ask the hard questions. Is this sustainable or merely sensational? Does this build long-term value, or is it a flash in the pan designed to make someone else rich at your expense? Wealth built in a hurry often vanishes in a hurry. Choose education over excitement. Read, study, and absorb principles that have proven themselves over decades. Slow, disciplined action compounds into real freedom, while chasing excitement compounds only stress and regret. Avoid schemes that promise easy riches. They are rarely built to serve you. They are designed to serve someone else's profit. The wealthy understand this. They do not let temptation override reason. They avoid shortcuts not because they lack ambition, but because they value the longevity of their wealth. If you want to grow rich and stay rich, reject the quick fix, seek knowledge, act deliberately, and let patience and principle guide every financial move. True prosperity is earned, not borrowed from fantasy. Too many people fall into the trap of not paying themselves first. They live by the mantra, I'll save whatever is left at the end of the month. But the truth is, at the end of the month, there's usually nothing left. Wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep, grow, and compound over time. If you wait until you feel you have enough or until bills are paid, you will never truly build financial freedom. The rich understand that paying themselves first is not optional, it's the foundation of all wealth. Early in my life, I remember being handed my first paycheck and feeling the urge to spend it on the pleasures of the moment. Dinners out, new clothes, small indulgences. But I made a conscious decision to allocate a portion of my income to savings and investments before touching the rest. It felt unnatural at first, almost as if I were depriving myself. But over time I realized I was creating a system that worked for me rather than against me. That small, consistent habit of paying myself first became the seed of financial independence. A habit that compounded into opportunities I could never have imagined if I had waited to see what was left over. The strategy is simple. Treat your savings and investments as the most important bill you pay each month. Automate transfers so that the moment your income arrives, a predetermined portion goes directly into your savings or investment accounts. Don't wait to see if there's anything left over. Decide in advance that this is non-negotiable. With each raise or increase in income, raise the percentage allocated to your financial growth. This simple principle builds discipline, removes temptation, and forces your money to start working for you immediately. By making yourself the first priority in your finances, you're establishing the mindset of an investor rather than a consumer. Your money begins to work for you instead of you working solely for money. This is how wealth is built and sustained. Paying yourself first is not a luxury. It is the cornerstone of financial independence and freedom. Make it a rule today, and you will never again struggle with the uncertainty of what's left. Comparison is a silent but powerful trap that keeps many people from achieving real financial freedom. You see someone with a bigger house, a newer car, or a fancier lifestyle and suddenly feel inadequate. This feeling often drives poor financial choices, overspending, debt accumulation, and chasing status rather than building true wealth. The reality is that comparing your life to someone else's only steals your focus and discipline. Wealth is not a race against your neighbor. It is a journey measured against your own past and your future potential. Early in my life, I remember feeling the pressure to match the apparent success of colleagues and friends. I would see their cars, their clothes, their vacations, and think I had to keep up. But every time I followed that impulse, my finances suffered, and my long-term goals stalled. It was only when I consciously shifted my focus inward, tracking my own progress, celebrating small wins, and ignoring external comparisons that I began to see consistent growth. I realized that wealth is built quietly, steadily, and on your terms, not someone else's. The strategy is simple but profound. Focus on your lane, pay attention to your income, your savings, your investments, and the habits that create wealth over time. Track your progress monthly, not against friends, neighbors, or social media, but against your own past self. This builds clarity, self-respect, and momentum. Celebrate small wins, whether it's paying off a debt, hitting a savings goal, or making a successful investment. Every step forward is progress, and progress compounds faster than comparison ever could. Practical steps make this actionable. Unfollow social media accounts, unsubscribe from newsletters, or avoid conversations that trigger envy or distraction. Measure your growth by what you've accomplished relative to where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, or 5 years ago. And each month, take time to acknowledge even the smallest wins, because they reinforce the habits that create long-term wealth. By refusing to compare yourself to others, you reclaim your focus, your discipline, and ultimately your financial freedom. The rich know that the only benchmark that matters is your own progress. Measure it carefully, protect it fiercely, and celebrate it fully. Too many people chase wealth as if their body is immortal, only to discover that all the money in the world is useless without the health to enjoy it. The richest person in the world who is bedridden, fatigued, or constantly sick has no real freedom. Wealth without health is like owning a car with no fuel. It may look impressive, but it doesn't move you anywhere. I have seen countless ambitious individuals pour their energy into business, investments, and material gains, only to neglect sleep, diet, or exercise. In my own life, there were periods when long hours and high stress made me feel invincible. But I quickly learned that burnout, illness, or lack of energy could wipe out progress faster than any financial mistake ever could. The philosophy is clear. Your body, mind, and energy are foundational assets. Time spent improving health is an investment, not a cost. A strong body allows you to think sharper, work longer, and enjoy the results of your labor. Without vitality, even the most disciplined savings, investments, and businesses cannot deliver true freedom. Wealth is meant to serve life, not replace it. The strategy is holistic. Treat physical health, mental clarity, and financial growth as interconnected systems. Exercise daily, even if it's a short walk or a brief workout. Nourish your body with clean food, because energy fuels both productivity and decision-making. Prioritize rest as a non-negotiable part of your schedule. It is not laziness, but maintenance for long-term performance. Mental health matters too. Take moments for reflection, meditation, or learning, as stress can erode judgment and discipline. Practical steps make it actionable. Block time daily for movement, plan meals with intention, and protect your sleep schedule as you would an investment meeting. Schedule annual health checkups and preventive care. A small effort now can prevent enormous setbacks later. Consider rest days and vacations as compounding assets. They restore creativity, energy, and focus, allowing you to perform better across all areas of life. Wealth is meaningless if your body cannot enjoy it. Treat your health as your most valuable account. Deposit consistently, withdraw wisely, and protect it with discipline, for it is the ultimate currency that underpins every other form of success. Many people spend their entire lives accumulating wealth as if they were preparing for a race they will never finish, forgetting that true prosperity is measured not just by what you keep, but by what you leave behind. I've seen countless individuals work tirelessly to grow their bank accounts, only to realize, too late, that when they're gone, so is their influence. Money alone does not create a legacy. Wisdom, values, and the structures you build endure far beyond the final dollar you earn. Wealth without a plan for continuity is like planting a tree and never watering it. It may survive briefly, but it will not thrive for generations. The philosophy is simple. Think beyond your lifetime. Your wealth should serve life, not just living. The richest individuals are not always those with the largest accounts, but those who create systems, habits, and values that outlive them. Their influence multiplies because they pass down knowledge, opportunity, and character alongside money. In my own experience, I've learned that the moments spent teaching, mentoring, and documenting principles have far greater long-term impact than any transaction or investment alone. True richness is measured in continuity, not consumption. The strategy is to build systems that endure. Don't just save, structure. Don't just invest, plan for transfer. Create processes for financial management, education, and wealth generation that can continue without your constant supervision. Document not only your assets, but also the philosophy and discipline behind them so that future generations inherit understanding, not just opportunity. Teach, mentor, and inspire, because knowledge passed down multiplies the original investment exponentially. Practical steps make it actionable. Draft a will and estate plan to secure your family and beneficiaries. Write down your principles for managing money, handling risk, and creating wealth, so that they can serve as a guide for those who follow. Each month, intentionally teach someone younger about money, whether it's a family member, employee, or mentee, focusing on habits, mindset, or strategy. Even small lessons compound over time. If you desire true wealth, don't stop at accumulation. Think in decades and generations. Build a legacy that lives longer than your life, and you will achieve a richness that money alone could never buy. As we conclude, remember that true wealth is more than money. It's wisdom, discipline, and the legacy you leave behind. Avoid the traps that keep most people broke, and commit today to intentional action. Save before spending, invest wisely, live below your means, and build systems that outlast you.